Hello everyone, it's your boy here, back with another video of Wizardry Variants Daphne. Today we're going to be going over all of the legendary adventurers' inheritable skills and their disciplines. Then we'll be dictating whether we should use your duplicates for discipline or upgrading the inheritable skill. I will be covering the legendaries that are available to everyone first, and then cover the legendaries that are from limited time banners. I'm going to try my best to make this as quick and in-depth as possible, but very briefly, I would like to clarify that every discipline increases every stat. But depending on the character, their discipline will focus on two main stats. The main stats that are increased gets increased more than the other stats. For example, every stat could be increased by 1 point, but if the character has a focus on health and attack, they'll probably get a 2 or 3 point increase into health and attack instead of just 1. Another thing that I would like to clear up is that using a character's duplicate for their discipline is usually better than using their duplicate to increase their skill level, especially since you can obtain skill XP scrolls that can be used to give XP to any skill in the game, no exceptions. Just keep this in mind when watching this video, and with that being said, let's jump right in. The first character we're going to be taking a look at is Lana. Lana is always available to every player, but she does have a limited time version that differs very little to the non-limited time version. The only difference between the two versions are that the limited event version has a different appearance and the discipline focuses on one more stat than the non-limited version. For this reason, along with being fair to everyone, we'll be focusing on the non-limited version the most. She is a fire-type knight unit that is extremely good for team support. Her inheritable skill, Queen of War and Love, heals your entire team by a minor amount of HP after winning a battle, and the amount healed is only increased by each level increased, meaning each level that is increased, the more health you heal. Her discipline increases each stat with a focus on defense and confusion/charm tolerance. So I would definitely recommend using your duplicates to increase the level of her inheritable skill. After reaching around level 3, I would recommend to then focus on her discipline. Lana is such an extraordinarily good character that after obtaining her, you'll most likely keep her on your main team for the entirety of the game, and her skill's usefulness alone will never truly disappoint you. Next up is Deborah, a light-type thief that has an incredible inheritable skill. Her skill, Blessing of the Beastfolk Goddess, allows a character to regain a minor amount of SP after said character has killed an enemy. This ability is so incredibly good that I would recommend using your duplicates of Deborah to pass on the skill to all of your non-magic users to help regulate the amount of SP you're using. The usefulness of the skill can never be understated, as the amount of SP regained after leveling up the skill only increases and proceeds to increase in usefulness. After passing on the level 1 version of the skill to the characters that you'd like, I'd say to upgrade her own skill for herself and then work on her discipline after focusing on her inheritable skill for herself and the other members of your team. Her discipline skill increases every stat with a focus on attack power and paralysis tolerance. This can be useful, but I would argue that her inheritable skill will help her and the rest of your team a lot more than her discipline. A quick side note, if you use an AoE move and kill more than one enemy, it will only give you the SP back from one of the enemies. For example, if Deborah were to kill 3 enemies in one turn and her skill was level 1, she would only get 4 SP back instead of 12. Next is Alice. Her inheritable skill, Blessing of Agora, increases the duration of buffs and debuffs as well as increasing her total MP. Her discipline increases all of her stats with a focus on divine power and magic defense. As good as the divine power increase is for her from her discipline, her skill is better in every other way. Her duplicates should be used to increase her skill as soon as possible to create not only a strong healer, but also a support user whose spells can be used for a long duration of time. Then there's Adam. His inheritable skill, Wisdom of Truth, is worded very poorly and can be incredibly confusing. But pretty much this skill prevents enemies from resisting any elemental damage you do to it, while also giving the owner of the skill the chance to take reduced damage when they're attacked. The damage reduction chance is affected by the luck stat. It also gives you a small MP increase as well. His discipline increases all of his stats with a focus on magic power and action speed. Without a doubt, I highly recommend focusing on his discipline. The chance of reducing the damage you take and lightly increasing your max MP is great, but the fact that you can increase his action speed and magic power as a mage is a must. Plus, the resistance elimination of attacks is always on and cannot be upgraded. There's no point in upgrading the skill if its main function isn't going to be upgraded in my opinion. The next legendary mage is Yekatrina. Her inheritable skill, Eye of Kalsham, increases the user's detection skill, which affects the trap detection and visibility to see enemies on the map, as well as giving the team a chance to completely nullify an ambush made by the enemy. Her discipline increases every stat with a focus on max MP, and skill and spellbind status resistance. Without a doubt, increasing her skill level is the best use of her duplicates. The stat increases are nice, but the detection of traps through an unknown dungeon location, on top of a chance to completely negate the enemy's ambush, will be nothing but helpful. Finally, the last of the non-limited time adventurers is Geralf. His inheritable skill, Eruption Strike, deals a moderate fire-type physical attack on one enemy. Its accuracy and damage is boosted if the user is using a two-handed blunt weapon. These weapons can be two-handed staffs, two-handed maces, etc. As long as it's a blunt weapon that uses two hands, it will get the damage and accuracy boost. His discipline increases each stat with a focus on surety and attack. I would recommend investing in his discipline because his inheritable skill already does a decent amount of damage at level 1. So increasing his overall stats is going to make him a better overall fighter for your team. The surety and damage boost focus pushes me into recommending the discipline over leveling up the skill. Next are limited time characters. These characters were on temporary banners at some point in Wizardry Daphne's lifespan. The first one we're going to be going over is the legendary ninja Renee. Renee's inheritable skill, Moment of Finality, is an AoE skill that deals damage by bypassing the enemy's magic defense while also having its damage calculated by the user's attack stat. In other words, you're using your attack stat to hit through the enemy's magic defenses to deal damage. Her discipline increases all stats with a focus on surety and accuracy. I would recommend focusing on her discipline because the stat increases seem more valuable than the skill level up, since the skill level up doesn't directly increase the damage the move deals. Next is Savia, the newest legendary of the game as of recording this video. Her inheritable skill, Black Beast Feint, increases the user's evasion stat and makes one row of enemies easier to target, and it also gives the user the ability to counterattack immediately after dodging an opponent's attack. Essentially, this is a buffed version of the passive counterattack. Her discipline increases every stat while also focusing on evasion. This single stat focus makes her evasion stat be increased more than your typical focus stat. I recommend using your duplicates for discipline, as increasing her evasion stat is only going to improve all of her abilities and make her a dodging menace. Up next is Abenyus. One of my personal favorites of the limited type characters, her inheritable skill, Flutter Dream Flash, allows the user to deal a priority minor physical damaging move on a random enemy, while having a low chance of decreasing the enemy's accuracy if you didn't completely annihilate them. The usefulness of this move can also not be understated. It's so good that I'd encourage everyone to slap it on every physical attacker they have, as having the ability to attack first without it affecting the turn order of the battle is incredibly useful. Her discipline increases every stat with the focus on attack power and her confusion and charm tolerance. For her duplicates, I would again go so far as to say to give her skill to every character you can, then level up her inheritable skill to either level 2 or 3, and then focus on her discipline for the rest of the way. I cannot express enough how good this skill is and how easy this character can make the game feel. For our limited time priest, we have Redbeard. His inheritable skill, Prayer of Rebellion, increases the attack power and resistances of the row of your choosing for 3 turns. His discipline increases all stats with a focus on divine and attack power. I would highly recommend using his duplicates to increase his inheritable skill up to around level 3, and then focus on his discipline. Also, his skill is affected by Alice's inheritable skill, making his buff last longer than the usual 3 turns. Lastly, we have one of the oldest limited time characters in the game, Gerard, just being younger than Princess Knight Lana. His inheritable skill, Thunderstrike, deals moderate physical wind-type damage on one enemy, with a low chance to inflict paralysis. His discipline increases all of his stats with the focus on evasion and action speed. I believe that focusing on his discipline would be better as it actively increases his action speed, letting him hit earlier in the battle. His skill is good, but being able to move first is better than anything else in the game at the current moment. And that should be all for all the legendaries and their inheritable skills and disciplines. Please let me know what you guys think, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask them in the comments below. With that, please leave a like and subscribe for more Wizardry content, and I hope to see you all in the next video.